Ladies and gentlemen, so today we have one interesting question which reads to say, what are the remainders when x to the power 3 minus x squared plus 3x minus 2 is divided by x minus 1. So this topic is what is referred to as remainder and factor theorem. So when you are dealing with remainder and factor theorem, so this specifically is remainder. So when you want to divide this into that, you can either use synthetic division, long division, or we use functions. So under functions, we can say x minus 1 is equal to 0, then x is equal to 1. Then you get this one, you replace it in here. So you have 1 to the power 3 minus 1 squared plus 3 times 1 minus 2, where 1 to the power 3 is 1 and 1 to the power 2 is basically 1. 3 times 1 is basically 3 minus 2. So when you subtract 3 minus 2, you get the value to be 1. So 1 specifically here is the remainder. Then the second question is you dividing x plus 2 into the polynomial that we have been given. So we can also use functions for us to be able to solve this particular equation, for us to find the remainder by equating this equal to 0, and you have x is equal to negative 2 here. Then you get this negative 2, you replace it in there, so you have negative 2 to the power 3 minus negative 2 squared plus negative 2 minus 2. So we know for sure that negative 2 to the power 3 is negative 8, and negative 2 squared is positive 4 times the negative is negative 4. Negative 2 times 3 is basically negative 6 minus 2. Where you know for sure that negative 8 minus 4 minus 6 and minus 2 is basically negative 20. So someone may ask to say, how can we use synthetic division for us to get the remainder? So remember, synthetic division, you only consider the coefficient. So in this case, the coefficient of x to the power 3 is 1. The coefficient of x squared is negative 1. The coefficient of 3x is basically 3. And the coefficient of that number is the same. So we can just choose between A and B, which one we can test to prove that synthetic division can also produce a remainder. So we can even choose x minus 1, where we put a 1 here by doing what we had done. So this is where the 1 is coming from. So the first thing, you drop down the 1. 1 times 1 is basically 1. And negative 1 plus 1 is basically 0. 1 times 0 is 0. And 3 plus 0 is basically 3. 1 times 3 is basically 3. And negative 2 plus 3 is basically 1. So this one is the remainder. But someone can ask to say, how did you arrive to 1 being the remainder and not 3? So when we are dealing with synthetic division, there is always a drop down in power. From 3, it will go to basically 2. So here you have x squared plus 0x plus 3. So basically this is what has remained when we have formed the particular equation. So there is one thing again when we are dealing with synthetic division. Synthetic division basically gives you both what is referred to as the quotient and the remainder itself. So there is a question which we will solve where they are asking us to find both the quotient and the remainder, which will be attached in the link of this video or in the comment section below. So this is how you basically use synthetic division to calculate the remainder and the quotient. Your host, Golden Zulu.